I was talking to a group of college students the other day, and it broke my heart when I asked them, what is the preferred mode of communication in your family? How do you connect with one another? How do you share information with one another? And a lot of them said, by yelling and screaming. Now, I know that they were trying to be funny, and I know that they're exaggerating a little bit, but the fact that they think that that's really a mode of communication, the fact that they think that their family doesn't really hear each other unless they're yelling and screaming, got me to thinking about how many of us have structures in place in our businesses, in our jobs, in our careers, in other facets of our lives, but when it comes to our home, we feel all frazzled and out of sorts. We don't really know how to bring harmony and peace and how to make it so that there's a balance between what we experience in our careers and what we experience in our homes. Well, there is one secret, that if we understand it and implement it the right way, will make a total difference and shift our entire family dynamics from tense and maybe not as harmonious as it needs to be to balanced and peaceful and amazing. So would you like to know what that secret is? Would you like to know what that one thing is that if you use it correctly can bring peace and harmony and balance to your family? It's really not anything extraordinary. It's not something that you couldn't have figured out on your own or that you might even be thinking about right now. But it is the idea of having prioritized values. Now, in another video, I talked a little bit about how values are generally the thing that separate winning and successful organizations from unsuccessful ones, and that if we implement the idea of values into our families, we can also predict that our families will be more successful in the long run by having clearly set and communicated values. I will link that video up here in the notes. It's somewhere on this video. But there's also this concept, right? You have to take it one step a little bit further of not just setting and communicating the values, but prioritizing the family values. Determining as a family and having a conversation about what are our most important values. What are those things that are non-negotiable for our family, that are going to define who we are as people, and that are going to help us understand what things fit into our family dynamics and what things do not. Once you have clearly communicated and established values, you can then sit down and decide, okay, which are the most important ones? Which are the ones that we are not willing to give in terms of them, right? That we are not willing to negotiate or let go of under any circumstances. And once you have established which ones are the top priorities, here's how that is going to help you achieve the peace, harmony, and balance that I promised you. First off, decision making will become so much easier and almost automatic when you have prioritized values. What do I mean? Let's say that you're trying to decide where to go on vacation, and you are trying to determine the budget that you're going to spend and all these things. Now, if you have prioritized your values and your top value is spending family time, then you're going to look for a vacation spot that promotes that, and you're going to look for a budget within that is not going to harm or affect that spending time together as a family. Does that make sense? Let's say that you're thinking about what new car to buy. Well, if your priorities are to save money, that's one of your top priorities, to always have a good, decent amount in savings, right? And you have established what that amount is for you. Then you know that whatever vehicle you choose has to fit within the budget that will continue to allow you to have those savings, right? And you can quickly rule out the things that don't fit into those values as you're making any kind of decision. So that is going to bring peace, harmony, and balance, because first, you're not going to butt heads about the decision, because if it doesn't fit the values, it doesn't go. It's done. It doesn't work. And if it does fit the values and you still have certain choices, right? If you still have more than one to pick from, then you can discuss it in terms of those values, and that makes the decision-making process better. It's going to bring harmony because you're all operating under the same assumptions and based on the same desires and goals. And it's going to bring balance because you know how much time you can spend sometimes just arguing back and forth. Well, this is going to reduce that time considerably. The second way in which prioritizing values is going to help bring peace, harmony, and balance to your life is when you need to say no to your spouse, to your kid, or to yourself, or to others. When you need to say no to someone, it's going to be so much easier when you have clear prioritized values. It's going to make it easier for you to say no because regardless of who you're saying no to, it's no longer arbitrary and it's no longer just based on feeling. It's based on those family values that you have that are prioritized and clearly communicated. So let's say your kid says, Mom, I want to stay up late and go hang out with these guys somewhere. I don't know. You can sit down and talk about, okay, one of our family values is spending time together. This is going to take away from that. So no, I have to say no based on those values. And that is a silly example, but you get the idea. For the most part, you're going to be able to clearly communicate to your kid, to your spouse, to yourself, to other people, the no's, because they're based on whether they fit with your prioritized values or not. So saying no is no longer going to be a cause for contention. It's going to be a conversation clearly based on values. Now, a little caveat here, don't abuse it, right? Don't stretch it so that everything goes against your top values to excuse your saying no. Make sure that it really does either align or not align with your values before you give an answer. But if you are making your decisions, which was the previous one, right, based on your values, it's going to be a lot easier to have a no conversation with whomever it is because you know you're operating from a starting point of prioritized values. The third thing that having prioritized values can help you do is avoid or end arguments. How, you ask? Well, if you have prioritized values and you're using those as the foundation for your decision making and for saying no, just think about it. A lot of your arguments come because of decisions that need to be made in the family or because of moments in which you need to say no. But if you have your prioritized values and you can refer back to them and you can relate to the other person how your decision is based on those values, the argument is eliminated. It's no longer something that needs to be had in the first place. Most of the arguments we have in the family is because we disagree on the way that a decision is made or because we can't clearly communicate why we are doing or not doing something. But if you are basing all those things on your prioritized, communicated, agreed upon values, then there's really no argument. So you can end the argument right on its tracks when you refer back to, wait a minute, this is why I'm saying no, remember this value, it doesn't align with it, or this is why I'm doing this because remember this value, this is leading me to make this decision. And then you can even have a conversation if you need to. But it's no longer an argument of I believe, you believe, I think, you think. It's about the values and how the values align or don't align with whatever decision you're making. And if you happen to find yourself arguing about something that doesn't really have anything to do with your values, then that's an easy one to end. If it doesn't have anything to do with your values, then it's not worth arguing about. It's just a simple conversation of let's lay out pros and cons and see what's best, and we can be fine with whatever decision is made because it doesn't affect our core family values. It's not that important anymore. And we can even stop and say, wait a minute, why am I even arguing about this if it doesn't have anything to do with our core values? I can just maybe agree to disagree on this one, or maybe just give in to this one because it really doesn't affect the core things that we're trying to do as a family. So having these prioritized values will help you, again, make sure that decisions are made that align with your values, thus making the decision process a lot easier. It will also help you say no without engaging in this back and forth, because if your decisions were based on your values, then the no is supported by those values, and it's no longer a matter of, oh, you just want to be difficult, or you just don't want to give in, or you're just being stubborn. And finally, it will help you end and or avoid arguments, because the bottom line that is going to help you determine which side is correct is whether it aligns with your values or not. And if it has nothing to do with your values, then maybe it's time to let it go. Hi, I'm Marcy Amaro, and I hope you have found value on this video. If you have, I invite you to join the conversation over on my podcast at Sincerely Speaking, which you can find on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and also share this with someone that you think might benefit from it. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos, and I will see you on the next one.